Hi everyone and welcome back to the Finding Success podcast with me, Adam, and my co-host, Alex. How you doing, mate? You all right?
Hello, I'm all good, brother. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Today, we're going to talk about honesty. But before we get into the episode, please leave us a review, subscribe to all of our channels and our social media platforms, and don't forget to share our content as well. It is a massive help to all of us here at the Finding Success podcast. So please do all you can to get that out there. Grab a pen and some paper, and we will crack on with today's episode. So, honesty. How many times have you heard the word honesty or the saying, honesty is the best policy, right?
Yeah, heard that.
All the time. However, how common do you actually think honesty is said in those situations?
In this day and age, honesty is a rarity.
I agree.
In work, at home, sports, probably more so in sports because you trying to get the advantage.
Yeah.
But that's expected. That's a different thing, isn't it? That's different. But yeah, friends, even family sometimes are dishonest. They are. It's rife, and it's everywhere.
What is honesty? In your opinion, what is honesty?
It's truthfulness, isn't it?
Yeah.
Essentially. Being truthful. Maybe not factual, but truthful. Because, again, honesty is, I would say, more opinions than facts.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do about facts. Facts are facts. But, yeah, being honest with someone is, does my hair still fed in these jeans? Yeah. That's obviously a very minor one, but it's just your opinion, being truthful about your opinion to others around you.
Is that a minor one?
What does my ass look for? Well, to men it is, but to women it's a massive one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. In that situation, do they want honesty? That's the tough one, isn't it? Do they want honesty in that situation?
I don't think you can decide. They can decide if they want honesty. I think they are needing honesty. Okay. That's the toughest thing, right? So, a famous investor called Manish Pabrai spoke about this in one of his interviews, and he said, "My wife always asks me, how do I look? Because she knows I will give her the complete honesty, the honest answer in my opinion." Now, that's the key words there is his opinion, right? So you have two different people, well, you don't have two different opinions. You have millions and millions of different opinions, but the opinion she's asking for is his. And if he says, "I'm sorry, darling, but you look crap in that dress," she will take offense to that, but also she needs the honest opinion. She needs his opinion because 9 times out of 10, women dress for their partner, as do men. They dress for their partner, but they also dress for themselves, right? So I think you should be honest in the majority, if not all cases of your life. I don't think, has lying done anyone any favours? No, of course it hasn't. It hasn't done anyone any favours at all, right? So don't lie.
Yeah.
If you don't want to be honest, in certain occasions, you can work yourself around those, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But I don't think not being honest is good at all. From previous experience, trust me, and past and probably soon to be future experiences as well.
Yeah.
Honesty is the best policy. Do not lie.
I think
it is not good.
Everyone's been through a scenario, a situation in life where they've gone, damn it, if I was just honest from the outset,
it wouldn't have been a problem.
I'd have been so much better off.
Yeah.
Maybe not been a problem. Chances are it would still be a problem if you're in that sticky situation, but less of a problem because
Absolutely,
the dishonesty has come out and it's just hurt you more.
Yeah.
So,
as a kid, how were you taught honesty?
You were told never to lie.
But how did you get? Were there any lessons around that or not? Because I know I didn't have any lessons around it.
No.
The only lesson I ever had was when I started working as a 16-year-old kid. And those words were, just if you break anything, just be honest with it and own up to it and tell me that you've broken it.
Yeah.
And be honest with how it broke, and then we can fix around it. If you try and hide it, I'm going to find out, and I'll find out who's done it, and then I'll be pissed off.
Yeah.
So the lesson for me was when I was 16. That is really, I always got told, don't lie, tell the truth, X, Y, Z. But that was probably the biggest words that always stuck in my head is, if you break something, own up to the situation that you've done and be honest with it, and then we can work around it and move forward. Don't lie in those situations.
Yeah, because it means whatever the forthcoming from that event, say, would be easier to solve than it would be to try and work out. If you know when you get sent down a false path.
Yeah.
It's a lot of wasted energy and resources going down that path because someone was dishonest at the top of the road.
Start,
yeah. So it does pay dividends. Essentially, it can be painful to admit you've done something wrong in that situation. Say you did break something, you're gonna hate going, "Yeah, boss, I just broke this." It's gonna feel horrible, and he'll be a little bit angry with him. He will be a bit upset, but nothing compared to the goose chase you could have sent him on if you didn't admit to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? So it's almost like we have this mindset of instant gratification, like self preservation, dopamine chasing. You feel that at the time, no, I'm better off not telling him I've messed up, because then you don't look any worse than you did before. You might look a little bit better. Whereas you're scared to tell that person you've messed up because you're fearful that you're going to look worse in their mind and basically going to look down on you. And you don't obviously want that, so you avoid it and you just become dishonest. And I think that's where all dishonesty stems from. But overall, if you were then to get found out, the way he's going to look at you after that is even worse. It's just spiral of pain.
How about family versus friends then? Who would you likely be more honest with? Why? And would you ever tell less honest answers in certain situations?
That depends on the subject, doesn't it? Because I think some things I'd be more honest with my family about, and then other things I'd be more honest with my friends about. So like your sex life, you'd be slightly more honest with your friends than you would be your parents. Well, in my situation, I am. Whereas you'd be a bit more open and honest about your financial situation to your parents and your family than you would be to your mates, in my opinion.
Yeah. This is the question. This is the thing here where a lot of people stray from their honesty, in my opinion, or stray from what they want to do. Because someone asks you a question, you don't have to answer it. And remember that I think a lot of people would rather tell a lie than say, I don't want to answer that question. Or, you don't need to know that, is a common phrase that I use quite often.
Yes, yeah.
So I think it comes down to being honest all of the time with friends or family, but not answering questions if you don't want to answer them. If it's something like personal, like a sex life, you don't have to answer it. You just say, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to. You don't need to know that. What is it?
That's it. That's what you said earlier. Yeah. You don't need to know that.
Yeah, you don't need to know that answer.
I think that's the power you have. You have the ability. If you are honest with everyone, that's a better way to live. But then you can hold the power of, it prevents you being dishonest to anyone. If you hold the power to say, you don't need to know that.
Yeah.
You don't lie to them. You don't need to know that. I think it's a really good way of dealing with it.
I think, and also with regards to work relationships, absolutely, because many people work in a environment where they feel like they don't want to trust their colleagues completely. We fear trusting someone because they may use our honesty against us. Yeah. If we're honest about maybe our mental health, if we're not honest about our physical appearance or a weak spot that we have, they can be exploited in many, many different ways. The world that we are in, if you show any sign of weakness and you find that you are touchy about that weakness, it will be exploited and used against you just to make you feel worse. And unfortunately, maybe that's a very male dominated side of things, but I think it's very common.
I think you'll find it in female workplaces.
Yeah. Oh, I'm talking from my personal point of view.
Yeah, okay, fair.
Because that's all we know.
I think everyone will go through very similar things. Like you say, the workplace is quite rife with it because there is that opportunity to stab someone in the back and step up above them and so on. I think you're good at dealing with that. But what would you say if I asked you a question and you said, "Oh, you don't need to do that"? Would you not be worried about me going, "Oh, you're very defensive"? Have you ever had a negative reaction to you saying that?
I think the only negative reaction is people say, "Okay, fair enough."
That's not negative. I think that's quite a good result.
But I mean, like, give me an example. Try and give me an example, and I'll try and.
How much money do you earn, mate?
Reaction, you need to know that. Pennies.
Yeah, but say we're
not enough.
Okay. No. you're quite close mates. You're having a quiet conversation. This is I noticed someone did it to me the other day. It was very good of him. He opened himself up to me, said about he was having help with like a psychiatrist going to see someone. I was like, oh, okay, this is odd. This man doesn't normally do this to me, but I'm here for him, support him, whatever. And he goes, conversation started changing to money. He was like, oh, how much do you earn? And I was like, oh, was this whole thing about that? When he just puts that stain on the previous conversation.
Yeah.
And I wasn't comfortable telling him, but I didn't do the you don't need to do that, because I was scared it was a bit aggressive.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to. We're in a good place. We're having a lovely conversation. I didn't want to just shut him down so aggressively. Is there a better way of doing it? Is there a less aggressive? I know you're up front, aren't you? Not aggressive. You're to the point.
Yeah, cut the thing. Yeah, I mean, yeah, because
cut the shit.
In some ways, you could go. I mean, yeah, like if you had a conversation and he was maybe working in a similar workplace to you, that is where I would 100% definitely not tell anyone, because that just comes back and bites you in the arse.
No one's going to win from that.
If maybe you work in a different industry, that's a bit different.
Absolutely.
Because then that doesn't really matter so much. If we're going from the same point of view as the same industry, same workplace, I'd be like, I'm really sorry, mate, but I don't really feel comfortable in telling you.
Okay, nice. Yeah, okay, yeah.
And that I think is that's not abrupt. So I'm sorry, I don't really feel too comfortable talking about money.
That's quite respectful, actually.
Yeah, because that's just easy. It's like I don't want to talk about that really. It's still exactly the same thing as you don't need to know that.
Don't need to know that.
It's just saying it in a softer word or rewording it that it's easier to understand. I think where a lot of people struggle with honesty and say no to certain things is we're taught no a lot.
Yeah.
In our childhood, we're taught no so many times. So when someone says no to us as an adult, we go, oh, we're kind of like, actually, I'm an adult, I can do what I want.
Yeah.
But if you word it in a certain way that they understand that you don't really want to let on with that side of things, I don't think they really will bite back at you.
No.
But I think there can be similar situations where they will bite back at you. But what does that matter to you in the long run? That you've been honest to yourself. I think the hardest thing is being honest with yourself and being true to your values is really hard.
That is hard, yeah.
And I feel like people aren't honest enough to their own values and themselves because they just want to make other people happy.
Yes.
And by someone asking you a question, in them being happy and satisfied with them getting an answer, you say it.
You sacrifice.
But in reality, do you really need to say it? Is it going to get you anywhere down
I think
the road?
we do sometimes, just out of trying to please people, we sacrifice our own, not happiness, but values.
Yeah.
You sacrifice them a little bit too much you get the text from the mate, do you fancy coming for a drink? I could do one. He's like, oh yeah, drink's not going to hurt, but actually you could have been working out that night or doing some work on the graft. And that's sacrificing your values. If you, like we've done in the past, if you make every decision based on your values, the hierarchy, so whether it be family, friends, business, or business, family, friends, you would choose to make the business first. If you did get that text, but you need work to do, you go, I need to do work. And sometimes we prioritize other people's wants, don't we?
Yeah.
Over our own, which sacrifices, which is just not being honest and true to yourself.
No,
that's the issue with it.
Because this is the hard thing, right? You're withholding information. You're withholding information from certain people, but you're not doing them bad in withholding information.
Okay,
you just don't want them to know. Yeah.
You're not being dishonest. You're not lying.
No, you just don't want them to know your information.
Which is that's a fine line. No, that's not a fine line. The fine line is, I don't want them to know this. How do I get around that?
Yeah.
And sometimes you would be dishonest and put them on a snaky trail, which is not great. It's not very good of you. But I feel like it sometimes feels like the easiest option.
Yeah.
So just withholding information is a better way, like saying just putting a butt to that end.
I'm sorry, but I don't feel comfortable talking about that. I'm sorry, I don't need to tell you that. You don't need to know that.
Yeah,
That's
I need
for
to
you
do
to
that.
know. I'm sorry, I can't tell you that, because that will be like you're still being honest. You're still being truthful in every single way in every single situation. You're just not telling them what they don't need to know. And I think the hardest thing is one of the things is relationships across the board, whether it's like a relationship with wife, kids, son, daughter, mum, dad, any relation to you, that form of relationship is so hard to be honest in. But that is why it is so important to be so honest in it, because it shows you're a truthful person. You have courage in that you're not scared of the repercussions of being honest, but you're so the person to you is so important that you're happily and willing to be honest without any any backfall, any painful backdrops,
Repercussions,
basically
yeah,
repercussions. You're happily just being honest because they need to know that situation. If something's gone on in your home life, you want to be open and honest with them and go on with it. It doesn't matter if you want to know that, let them go on with it.
And mentally, that would just be a better place.
For the relationship, it will do the relationship wonders. Where if you withhold information and sort of lead them down a snaky trail that isn't terrible but isn't truthful, that is where it becomes
totally
awful.
honest, slightly dishonest. Yeah, it will eat you alive, or a sane human being, not a psychopath.
No,
it would eat them alive, wouldn't it, I suppose, and it would affect you the way you behaved and affect other decisions because now you've got to live with that dishonesty, that
and
lie.
you've then got to live up to that lie.
Yeah.
And if it's a lie that is commonly told, how many times do you see that person, and how many times is that conversation going to come up? And you have to continuously remember what you've told dishonestly, and continue to live.
That's where people get caught out.
Yeah. Here's a question for you then.
Go on.
How many times do you think people have been dishonest to you?
Dishonest to me?
Yeah.
Well, countless, I imagine, over the years.
Yeah.
Even almost day to day, I'd say someone could be. They have the opportunity to be dishonest, I'd say.
Do you know the worst bit?
Go on.
You will never know.
Yeah.
You will never know if they're being dishonest to you or not. And that's why I think it is so important for us as listeners out there, people who are out there, people, just anyone in general, to be honest. Because the more we reduce the dishonest avenues, honesty, again, I think truly is the best policy. So the more we reduce that, the more we get the message out there to not be dishonest, to be as truthful as possible. Or if you don't want to be truthful, don't answer the question, but find ways of saying no. I think that is the most important way, and just understanding not to mislead people is so, so important. And I think it will do masses for your mental strength, but also because you're physically telling people, I don't want to answer that question. You don't need to know that, rather than lying. But also think from a business point of view, if you're looking to start up a business, start up a podcast, be a better human being and being honest and true with yourself, just in that aspect alone will boost your, whatever you want to call it, tenfold. The Kaizen philosophy, 1% every single day. That's 1% better in ourselves just by being honest. Yeah. Easy.
Your personal confidence will go up through the roof, and your respect from others will go up through, because you're never having to watch what you say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally honest after.
Yeah, and I love that. I think it's easy. Anything else to add?
No, I think
that's a podcast.